I was surrounded by a lot of sports, you know, and I liked sports, but man, I was bad. I couldn't jump, I didn't have the hand-eye coordination to put a ball in the hoop. I couldn't hit a ball. I was like, yeah, I was not very good. But when, you know, growing up on the street, pretty much, you know, the way you prove yourself is, you know, you had to prove that you were tough, you know. So we did stuff we weren't supposed to do, because, you know, and that's how you proved, you know, to your peers that, yeah, I'm tough. You see how tough I am? You know, so we would do little bits of juvenile delinquency. Yes, no, nothing big deal, you know, just kind of not that anything, you know, extraordinary. But, you know, my dad, I mentioned to you, my dad was a Purple Heart guy. He's, you know, in World War II, and you know, he was a disciplinarian. He's a tough guy, and so if I got caught doing these things, I'd have been, you know, toast, right? And so I had that great fear when we did something, when it was time to leave, when it was time to run to wherever the pre-designated place was to run, I'd be the first guy to get there. And so I discovered, well, maybe I can run. I can't hit a ball, whatever, but I can run. So around that same time was the Olympic Games, the 1968 Olympic Games, the most fabulous Olympic Games of all. They were held in Mexico City in 1968, and we had a phenomenal American track and field team. Tommy Smith and John Carlos, you may have seen images of them. They made a demonstration on the podium there, and I was very inspired by the time and the period and the athletes, and so I started kind of following the sport, although we didn't have the opportunity to compete in the sport. And but the time I became a freshman in high school was the first time I actually had the exposure to compete in the sport. And literally the very first day I went to Bishop McDevitt High School, I signed up for the cross country team and began my time in the sport. Beginning in October of 1970, that's when I was a high school freshman. Now you know how old I am. I started writing down my training log. Every day I wrote down what my workout was, and you know what? I've written down that workout every single day since October of 1970. After high school, I competed in college, had good success, and again, I was always adventurous, and so eventually after running track and cross country, I started running really long distance races, 50 kilometers, which is 31 miles. That's like you run a marathon and then throw 5 more miles on top of it. And once you do that, then you say, wow, I wonder if I can run 50 miles at once. And so we moved to 50 miles, and then we ran 100 kilometers, which is 62 miles. Then I heard about this crazy race where you run all the way around Lake Tahoe. You know how far it is around Lake Tahoe? It's 72 miles. There's one hill that's 5.5 miles long. Okay, so did that. And so then what do you do? Well, then you say, I wonder if I can run 100 miles. So then I trained and I ran. I did the work necessary to be able to run 100 miles. So I did that, and simultaneous to that, or just prior to that, I was trying to qualify for the Olympic trials. I came very close to qualifying for the United States team, but I didn't make the Olympic trials, but I was named to the United States team as an athlete to compete in the World Championships in the ultra marathon. I had some foot injuries, so I gave up my spot, and I was really disappointed to do so. But at the same time, I was coaching on the side, and my coaching career kind of took off. So it's all related. And when my coaching career took off, after I had to give up the spot as being an athlete on the U.S. team, I had the opportunity, I was asked to become the head coach of the United States team. And so on 3 different occasions, I was appointed the head coach of the United States national track and field team. I took the American team to compete in Japan twice and in Korea once. So that was really, you know, that's part of what I've done athletically. Same time, educationally, I studied business and marketing in college. I went to San Francisco State University, and the reason I studied business and marketing is I wanted to marry my love of the sport with business, and so I wanted to do something in you know the business of sport. And I ended up spending 17 years in sports marketing. There was the most sought after job that you can get in sports marketing if you're a running and track and field guy was to be the promotions guy for one of the running footwear companies. So that meant working for Adidas or Nike or Reebok or, you know, one of the big, you know, now there's Hoka, but there's only like 4 or 5 of these jobs. There's only 5 or 6 companies, right? And so what you get to do if you're the promotions guy is you get to negotiate athletes' contracts, sponsorship deals. Everybody, all the great athletes have got a sponsorship deal. They got a shoe deal. So I wanted to be the guy for the shoe company guy to be signing those deals and give away a lot of stuff, which I got to do. And I got to travel all around the world. Did you ever see the movie Jerry Maguire? Jerry Maguire? Okay, so he's an agent. He's a sports agent. So I got to be a sports agent and represent athletes to the shoe companies and back and forth between agents and sports. So it was a nice way to marry, a passion for the sport with education and turn it into an actual career where you actually got a paycheck doing something you loved. So discipline, concentration, focus, willing to get uncomfortable. I think the willingness to be uncomfortable is more so than anything. Anything that's worthwhile accomplishing is difficult. If it was easy, it wouldn't mean anything to you. It was like, oh, that was easy. No. But it's when you set out to accomplish something that's a stretch, and figure out how to make it happen, and are willing to do what it takes. And any goal that's worth accomplishing in any endeavor, it takes a lot of hard work. Things just don't happen easy. You have to make them happen, and you have to be able to overcome the obstacles that sometimes seem insurmountable. So persistence, determination, I mentioned both of those, and being able to have a vision. So I mentioned that my favorite quote as a young guy was the Calvin Coolidge quote, and you can look this up. In fact, I'd suggest that you do. It's a bigger quote than what I mentioned. I mentioned that was that persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. That's a small part of a larger quote. But as an adult, I learned about a German philosopher whose name is Goethe. It's not intuitive. It's how it's pronounced and how it's spelled. It's Goethe, the famous German philosopher. And he spoke about the fact that boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. I'll go with that again. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it, which meant that, if you make a decision, a bold decision, something that seems maybe like bigger than all of us, you make this bold decision, you don't worry about how you're going to get there as much as the genius and the power and the magic will fill in if you go after that and take the first step is taking action. If you take action and go after something, all the rest of the stuff will fill in, and you just have to roll with that. So.
I'm Alex Visconti.
I'm Morgan Seals.
And I'm Fanelli.
I'm Emma Johnson.
And I'm Jeanette Martinez.